Mula Bandha.
Yes. Well, the difference is, there is a clear, very, very clear difference between Vajroli Mudra, so the contraction of the genitals, which is also connected and also performed with contraction of the bladder. So Vajroli Mudra, the mudra of water or the thunderbolt, that's what it means, Vajroli, is a contraction of the genitals, inward movement of the genital muscles, which is right at the front of the body. Yeah? Like, that zone also, and also the urinary tract. So the inward movement of the urinary tract. It's a little like as if you pee and you want to stop. Yeah? So you pull back the peeing. This is Vajroli Mudra. The yogis also practice Vajroli Mudra of sucking in their pee again, like holding the key back, moving the pee back up, or also holding the orgasm in, the expansion of apana prana. Yeah? So this is Vajroli Mudra. This is distinctly different from Mula Bandha. There's a clear difference because it's a different movement. So it's the movement of moving up, holding the pee back in a way. Okay? And in a way also moving the sexual energies back, which are the Vajra, yeah? Which are the thunderbolt in a way. Because the sexual energies are considered to be at the base of the power of consciousness. Meaning that if you hunt the sexual pleasure in your life, or you exert the sexual energy, you diminish consciousness. This is the process, in a way. And the control of desire, which is symbolized through the control of sexuality, because these two are close connected. Actually, you could say that sexual desire is the greatest of all desires. For that reason, control of sexuality is in general the control of desire. So those people, let's say, who have a control over, who can let go of the need for sexual pleasure, such people also ultimately, intuitively, immediately have a control over how they're eating. They have a control over if they get angry with other people. They have immediately a control over if they are anxious about things. You see? Because it's so fundamental. Yeah? And this is the Vajra. It also starts from the base, so it's kind of a fundamental thing. It's almost below the emotions. Yeah? This is why in all spiritual traditions, this is not yoga, in all traditions, all around the globe. Yeah? If you go to the shamanic traditions in South America, I do not know how it is in the shamanic traditions in Africa, I don't know. Yeah? But if you go to the shamanic, the Judeo-Christian traditions, yeah, all of them, yeah, if you go to the Indian traditions, the Asian traditions, the control of desire, so the control of Vajra, is a key to the mastery of personality. It's a key to the mastery of your being as such. Okay? Like, how this is socially implemented in the sense of that there is an actual celibat, or people just have a marriage or things like this. That's a different question. Yeah. But anyways, every person must do it to a certain degree. To a certain, otherwise you fail in life, you're not functioning. Yeah? Also you diminish your consciousness. So this is the reason. This is Vajroli Mudra. Vajroli Mudra is physically contracting these muscles, yeah? And in that way also maybe putting awareness there. In yogic, in the yogic tradition, Vajroli Mudra is also the pulling in of the orgasm for men. For women there is Sahajoli Mudra, which is slightly different anatomically, I do not know so exactly, but it's also like pulling in maybe the energy of the orgasm, or I don't know how, yeah. So, but what I heard also from, but I do not know, however, I can imagine, yeah, I can imagine, but I do not know. I can imagine that for women there is also a different kind of movement. So there is a different kind of movement in that sense, that there is not only contraction, but there is also expansion, opening. Yeah? Because it is very interesting, that the sexual energy in man and woman, in both of them, is like, of course, it's an interplay. They both have to play with each other. The stronger the polarity between them, so the greater the difference, the greater the attraction. It does not mean, in a way, okay, that they need to be different. You know, some pairs of man and woman, they have a very similar essence. So they're kind of similar. The woman is kind of male, the man is kind of female, or the other way around. You know, there can be some, they do not need to be different, but the sexual attraction within the pair, and in general the attraction, the desire in life is created through difference. The greater the difference, the greater the ecstatic joy. And at the same time also the greater the danger, you know, the greater the destruction within, which is very interesting for people. You know, you see this in the sexual games. The stronger the difference, the greater the tension, the greater the danger, the greater the destruction, the more the brutality, the more intense. And some people, of course, cultivate that. You know, they cultivate the difference. You see like the men who are very much like this, and then the girls who are very much like this, you know, and you see there is this immense magnetic movement between them, yeah, between these two completely different, you could say, archetypes that these two individuals play out. It's a game. So what is important here to understand is that the essence that creates life in general, the essence that creates life always needs that dance. Okay, it needs this dance. And so the sexual act in the woman, or the power, the sexual power in the woman, and the sexual power in man are two different things. There are two different movements. There are two different things required. You could also say that what makes a man strong in his essence is the ability to hold. That what makes a woman strong in her essence is the ability to give. Yeah? If both of these things are fully expanded, the game is perfect. So then both play intensely. Yeah? Because the one can always hold. Yeah? So take somehow, but also not give. And the other can always give. And there is the orgasmic joy of the eternal giving forever and the eternal holding. Yeah? So this is like the absolute game, you could say, okay, that both can play. So, therefore, I personally believe also that the Vajroli Mudra and also the Sahajoli Mudra, they have two different forms. Like a female student of mine made me aware of this by talking about it. She said, he thinks that also Vajroli Mudra for women is also the ability to open, to fully let go of that, you know. Whereas for men, Vajroli Mudra is the ability to firmly hold back. Okay, always to firmly hold back that particular energy. So, however, yeah, I think there is the yogic aspect, so there is the aspect of practice, of course. Yeah? But I believe that thinking about these mudras, that the sexual mudra, Vajroli and Sahajoli Mudra, is even more interesting about what it means for you as a human being, independently from how to perform it physically. But what I said before, that in a way, the essence you should cultivate or be able to hold your sexuality in order to be able to grow. You should be able to expand it consciously. So interestingly, maybe it's not so important if we're holding it. Maybe it's not important if we expand it. We should do consciously, with full awareness and with absolute effort, what we are doing. Because if performing it with effort and with awareness, we are putting it inside the light of consciousness and we are turning it into something sacred, into an instrument that serves our spiritual growth. Okay, and this is important, that everything we are as human beings, everything we feel, every desire we have, can be an instrument of growth, bringing us forward, making the world more beautiful. and not making the world exhausted, destroyed, dark and forgotten. Yeah? The world wants to be remembered. The world wants to grow. So maybe that aspect, that inner aspect, I think is more important even than the physical holding. Yeah, I personally believe.